Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Today's talk is going to be on gas and bloating from increasing proteins and fats in your diet. I see this quite frequently with patients in my clinic, actually daily, where patients have come into me. They're on the standard American diet, a lot of processed carbs, a lot of grains, that kind of 60, 15, 20, 60, 70% carbohydrates, lower amounts of fats and moderate amounts of proteins. And we're changing their diet around and we're reducing a lot of the inflammatory foods, the grains, the refined sugar, the inflammatory omega-6 fats. We're pulling them out, we're shifting it, we're increasing good fats and maybe some more good proteins to stabilize blood sugar. And guess what happens? They start getting bloaty and gassy. Now, what does that mean? So let's break down some of the digestive physiology. Let's go through what it could potentially mean and some interventions and treatment options. Awesome, let's dig in. So bloating and gas from fats and proteins, what does it mean? Well, first off, let's give you some contextual value of what the physiology is doing so it makes sense. So here's our stomach, all right? And I kind of laid it out left to right here just so you can see it. Typically the intestines are all kind of mushed up in this spaghetti goo, so we can't really draw out the different parts. So just bear with me here. So here's your stomach. Protein digestion primarily happens here. So what does that mean? So if we start giving someone more protein, more high quality protein, whether it's grass-fed meat, maybe omega-3 rich, wild Alaskan sockeye salmon, maybe a clean collagen powder, that protein, well, maybe not the powder per se, but the real animal whole food proteins, they get digested in the stomach. What happens is hydrochloric acid is produced. Hydrochloric acid activates certain enzymes in the stomach that kicks off the cascade for protein digestion. So it starts off here. This is step one. Okay, step two is this acidic chyme, this nice low pH of about 2, 2.5, gets released into the small intestine. And from here, what happens is we have our, imagine this being our gallbladder, GB, and then this is our pancreas. Based on the acidity, they actually shoot over some bile salts and some enzymes, multiple enzymes, lipase, trypsin, chymotrypsin. In the gallbladder, we have various bile salts, and that's going to kick off fat digestion. But again, there's still going to be some protein digestion happening in the small intestine as well, because we do have other proteolytic enzymes coming out from the pancreas, such as trypsin and chymotrypsin. So you can see protein digestion here, fat and protein digestion here. Now again, this is the first part of the small intestine. So this is the small intestine down here. And this is the different parts, the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum, okay? And again, we need nice acidity coming into here. So here's the three parts. Again, a lot of the nutrients gets reabsorbed in the small intestine. And if we don't break it down at step one or step two, then we're gonna have problems here. So off the bat, I'll go a little bit more here. So here's our colon here as well. And again, what typically happens here is nutrients are all extracted here. And then what happens here, we have electrolytes get reuptaken along with different fluids as well. So we have electrolytes, various minerals, and then fluids. So we have fats and proteins, fats and proteins, and electrolytes and fluids. And we have different processes that can go wrong that can create dysfunction. Now let's talk about what can happen. So over here with the stomach, we can easily have acid reflux and heartburn if we're not breaking down our protein correctly. Again, the nice acidity tightens up this esophageal sphincter up there. So nice acidity closes that up tight and prevents acids from rising up. So we have to make sure we break it down so we reflux to that esophageal sphincter to close it up so that acid won't come back up. Same thing down here in the small intestine. If we don't create a whole bunch of these enzymes to break down these foods, we're going to have more fermentation, more putrefaction, and rancidification, right? Rancidification are fats going bad. Fermentation is going to be carbohydrates, getting a whole bunch of gases being fed on by the bacteria being created. And then the putrefaction is the proteins rotting. And then down here, like we said, if we don't have this happen correctly here, a whole bunch of gas, a whole bunch of bloating, and then same thing any bacteria that makes its way down to the colon that shouldn't. This is our ileocecal valve. So if we have either bad bacteria from here going this way or bacteria going this way, it can be a two-way street. So if we have bad bacteria, it can go back and forth and create more gas, more bloating, more flatulence, more intestinal disruption, right? The bloating, the gas, the discomfort, the indigestion, feeling like there's a brick in your tummy. So again, with stomach issues, one of the first things we notice is burping, belching. Excessive gas is here because food is not being broken down properly. Now, more fats and proteins do a couple of things. They put more stress on your digestive system. So let's say you had, I'll keep it simple. Let's say you had this much hydrochloric acid and enzymes in your stomach. And this much hydrochloric acid and enzymes could digest this much protein and fat. So if we start increasing protein and fat, and because your digestive physiology isn't, let's say, on all four cylinders, well, this from here to here is going to be enough to start creating an indigestion of protein down here. So then the acid reflux, maybe the burping, the belching, the bloat that happens after you eat may start to happen because of that. And then same thing down here. If we don't knock over this domino correctly, let's say it falls and misses, well, guess what? The second domino is not going to fall correctly either. So we're going to have maldigestion of more fats and more proteins, and this can create more gas in the intestines. More bloating, more gas. We may start even to see with the fermentation and putrefaction and acidification lower in the intestines, we may even start seeing more flatulence too. And a good gauge is if your flatulence is kind of foul smelling, that's more methane, right? Methane gases tend to drive more constipation. Hydrogen gases tend to be more air-like, don't have the foul odor as much. But again, those are just general rules of the game there. And then again, you can see here with the colon, we could have various either constipation or diarrhea from the colon. Again, if we have excess hydrogen gas, we could have more diarrhea, excess methane gas, more constipation, or we could have a combination of the two and alternate back and forth. So you can see here, each step's really important. Protein, protein and fat, reabsorbing electrolytes and fluids. Now we can do different lab testing to look at the function each step along the way. So in the stomach, we may look at glucose testing, or we may look at various H. pylori tests or dysbiotic bacteria tests to look for things that could be causing protein to maldigest in the stomach. With fats and proteins in the small intestine, we may look at SIBO testing, like a lactulose breath test, which can be effective at looking at the hydrogen and methane gases. Of course, different highly functioning stool, highly specialized stool tests that maybe look at DNA or stool antigens of various infections like parasites, bacteria, Klebsiella, Citrobacter, again, fungal overgrowth, and all the different types of critters and worms can be effectively looked at with this type of testing. And again, infections can affect any step along the way. And if you have an infection up higher, guess what? It's going to cause the domino up top to fall off track, and then all the other dominoes below will be off kilter. So again, issues up top can cause issues to spill down to the next, to the next. Treatment options. Well, obviously diet's going to be important. So if we draw our 3 macronutrient dials, these are our dials here, right? So we have carbs, proteins, and fats. So imagine we can control our little dials, or we have levers, either one to help get your mind wrapped around it. We would just dial down the proteins and fats just for a time being, and we'd work on supporting digestive secretions, HCl, enzymes, bile salts, to help break down these foods in the stomach. So that's a really good start. We may even look at certain diet options too. Even FODMAP approaches or specific carbohydrate approaches where we cut down these fermentable oligodisaccharides and mono and polyols, these specific fermentable sugars in the diet. We may even look at cutting out phenols and salicylates, and even peeling and or really mashing and cooking our vegetables well, and even avoiding raw veggies too. So a lot of different options there. Treatment options. So we'll typically treat what we find. We treat the various infections that come up. And we also may have, depending on how long the problem's been happening, malabsorption. And the longer it's been happening, the more nutrients get malabsorbed. Part of what's important in the stomach and hydrochloric acid is it helps to ionize minerals. That allows minerals to get into the bloodstream and to go where they need to go so they can be absorbed and utilized. So we can easily have mineral issues, and minerals are so important because zinc helps make hydrochloric acid. If we are low in zinc, then that can affect our body's ability to make more hydrochloric acid. It also affects sex hormone levels. So if we have low sex hormones, the more inflamed we are, we have an inability to repair. Also, if we can't break down proteins, proteins become our neurotransmitters, which help how we feel, control the reward centers like dopamine and serotonin, also become precursors to sleep hormones like melatonin. And you can see if your sleep starts going and your mood starts going, and then we lose the ability to break down high quality cholesterol in our diet, that's the building block to a lot of our hormones. So now we start having poor sleep, poor sex hormones, poor mood, where we have PMS, we have brain fog, and we don't have the building blocks to help our body repair. So you can see digestive issues can really start to make this whole thing spiral out of control. So what next? Try some of the things I already mentioned earlier in the video. If that's not working, click on screen so you can schedule a consult with myself where we can dig in a little bit deeper and help you get to the next step of what could be going on under the hood, so to speak. And then also click on the subscribe button. We have more videos coming your way, lots of great solutions to your everyday health challenges. Again, thanks a lot. This is Dr. J signing off. Have a great night.